Greetings everyone, Craig Hester here from r2awatches.com, and thank you for joining us as we continue on our journey through all the watches and accessories that are available at r2awatches.com. If you are watching this on YouTube, you want to be sure and hit like and subscribe and ring that bell so you get early notifications as soon as we post a new video. If you are watching this on Facebook, you want to join the closed group Vostok Europe Timepieces. Don't let the name fool you. We talk about all of the watches available at R2A Watches in that group, not just Vostok Europe, although of course we do spend a lot of time talking about Vostok Europe in there. But we do spend time talking about what we're talking about today, which is the latest watch from our own brand, Pramzius watches. I am so excited to be bringing you an overview of the Gauge Master from Pranzius watches today. You have no idea. I mean, it's just the fact that we've been able to make it to our fourth watch is so exciting. We've been around for about 4 years now, and Pranzius, as I said, is our own in-house brand. Pramzius, which actually means is the name of the Baltic god of time. The Baltic states had a pantheon of gods similar to the Greeks and the Romans and so forth. They each had their different parts to play in the pantheon of gods, and Pramzius was the Baltic god of time. So that's why we named this, because we've been doing business in the Baltic region or Eastern Europe or whatever terminology you like to use. For many, many years now, coming up on 16, 17 years, and we felt like it was just a really good fit to stick with at least that as inspirational territory for our watches. And in this case, there is still a connection to the Baltic in this watch. If you're not familiar with this watch at all, I'm not going to start from the most basics, but I want to make sure you understand a little bit more about what Pranzius is. Pranzius is our own in-house brand. It is the brainchild of everyone here at r2awatches.com. Has worked together on this for many, many years. We are on our fourth watch. Our first one, this is actually our second train-related watch. Our first one was the Trans-Siberian, which came out about 4 years ago, and it was the pocket watch for, in fact, it's right here. It was the pocket watch for the wrist. Could be also put onto this little desktop holder, and it also could be converted to being an actual pocket watch. So that was our first watch. That was followed by the Berlin Wall watch, which was the watch that had actual pieces of the Berlin Wall in the crown and graffiti from the East Side Gallery on the dial. Then after that came the Iron Wolf. I actually been wearing that today, the Iron Wolf, and you can see my t-shirt is the Iron Wolf t-shirt, and that was a watch that was inspired by a Lithuanian legend. So that is the brief history of Pranzius watches. Now we are into the Gauge Master. So there are three core elements that make the Gauge Master what it is. Okay, the first one is that the Gauge Master has actual metal from 1800s and 1900 locomotives in the dial, in the outer dial ring. I'll go into that a little more deeply and show you what that is as we go a little bit further. The second aspect of the Gauge Master is that it is designed after a manometer gauge that was used in one of the locomotives from the VVT Train Museum in Saint-Sulpice, Switzerland. That is the Vapeur Val de Travers, which I'm sure I am butchering. It is the VVT Train Museum in Saint-Sulpice, Switzerland. That is where this gauge came from, and that's where the metal that is in the watch is coming from as well. And then the third aspect that is critically tied to this particular watch is the askew dial. If you look at this dial, you will see it is not straight up and down like most traditional watches are. The 12 is actually in what would normally be the 2 o'clock position, and we've taken to calling this an askew dial. Now, we are not the first brand to do an askew dial. In fact, there are several others. They each have their own name for that particular type of dial, but we just have taken to calling it the askew dial. So those are the three elements of the watch. So I'm going to back up and talk now about the metal. So the metal I'm holding right here in my hand is metal stripped out from 1800s and 1900s locomotives. That is, and you can see that they're cut into circles. Now this is actually bigger circles than the watch itself. This was just from when we were testing to see what we could make work. I've had this piece of metal now for like 3 years. Now if you look at the dial up close, and I actually took a dial out of the case so that I could show you up close, you will see the metal in the chapter ring. Now, isn't that just cool? First of all, just that's so cool in and of itself. But this is actual metal from 1800s and 1900s locomotives. And what I really like about this is that it means that each individual watch is going to be unique, even though they're the same watch. You know, let's do this so you can compare, because this in my left hand is the same dial that is in the watch in my right hand, but if you look at the metal in the outer chapter ring, you can see that they are not the same. And it is going to be that way for each individual watch. It's going to make each individual watch unique. That's because this is scrap metal. I mean, this is metal that they stripped out from the trains in order to replace with something, you know, wherever it might have needed to be replaced, or whatever the reason was for this metal to be taken out of the train. That means that you've got rust, you've got all of the original core things that go into making a piece of metal a really cool old piece of metal. And that is, each individual watch is going to have its own chapter ring, and that chapter ring is going to be unique. So that's the first core element of the Gauge Master. The second core element of the Gauge Master is that the dial and case are designed to look like a gauge from an antique locomotive. This one was actually used in one of the locomotives there at the VVT Train Museum, and I picked it for a number of reasons. One of the things is I do really love the three-quarter moon at the bottom, which we emulated on the seconds hand on the Gauge Master. I liked the little pop of red in what is here 3.5 position, but on the watch is actually the 12 o'clock position, and again, that gives us the position for the askew dial. And that leads me to the third critical element of the Gauge Master is the askew dial. Now, as I mentioned earlier, when you look at this, you'll see the dial is not straight up and down like a typical watch, like what you would consider an everyday watch. Most watches, the dial is going to be straight up and down. In fact, it's quite rare to have a watch that has what we have come to call the askew dial. Now, why did we do that? That is an old-time railroad or engineer aspect of a watch. I'm putting it on here so I can show you on the wrist and give you a wrist shot of it. Aspect of the watch, so that you can wear the watch if you're someone who deals with levers and pulleys and be able to see the time real easily and quickly without potentially moving a lever you didn't need to move. Now, what am I talking about? If you are driving an engine, okay, if you're driving a train engine, but an old steam engine, you're not going to have a steering wheel. You know, they don't have steering wheels like you think of in a car or a bus or a number of other types of transportation. They have levers and pulleys that they use. So the idea behind the askew dial is that you can have your hand over here on a lever, you can look over and very easily and quickly see what time it is without having to move it to this position, which you would have to do with a traditional watch, and risk moving a lever that you didn't intend to move. So that is the idea behind the askew dial. Now, I know that one of the questions you're going to have, and everybody has when they talk about this, and in fact, even though it was my idea to do the askew dial, it's still a question that I had and was very happy to come up with the fact that the answer was a positive one, and that is, how easy is it to read the watch with the askew dial? And the truth is, it's actually quite easy. It does take a little getting used to, but I would say after the third or fourth time that you look at the dial, you're going to be looking at it and you're going to read the time just like it's supposed to be read with the askew dial. It does not take long at all. It is a very easy thing to get used to. So that if that's something that was possibly you're going, I'm not so sure about that askew dial thing, I'm telling you right now, you'll get accustomed to it fast, and you will love the look and feel of it so much that that's going to be something that you'll actually treasure as a part of the watch, as opposed to something that you could possibly have seen as a drawback. Some of the other, now that we've gone over the main specs, by the way, these protrusions on the side, what's the word I'm looking for? What would you call these, Abe? Yeah, they're screws. I know that, but they're mounting screws. That's it. Mounting screws. Is that what you said? Oh, you said mounting screws? That's funny. The mounting screws on the side are actually intended to be reflective of the also of the gauge and how it would have been mounted into the cockpit area, the driver's area in a locomotive. Also, if you notice the sub second hand, it's designed like one of the steam wheels, directly designed like one of the steam wheels or the ones that were used for other purposes from the locomotives. So, and you can see there's seconds hand. I just love this watch. So let's talk about some of the more traditional aspects of it. So I know that we're covering all of the bases. First of all, this is a 44 millimeter timepiece, but as I always like to do, I'm going to zero this out and I'm going to measure and show you. So it's 44 millimeters across. Come on. A little over 44. It's always a little hard to get it exactly right. Now, but I will tell you that if you go from one of the mounting screws, thank you, Abe, to another one of the mounting screws, you're at 52. But another thing that I know you may ask, okay, are those mounting screws going to be digging into my wrist? No, there is plenty of clearance between where the watch is, where the base of the watch is, and the mounting screws. So they don't. I'm wearing the watch right now. I don't have any idea that those are even on there. But they do give it, for those of you who like bigger watches, they do give it a little bit of the appearance of being a bigger watch than it actually is. I like 44 because 44 is kind of a Goldilocks size. It's not too big, it's not too small. But if you are into bigger watches, this watch does wear big because it has a really big crown. We made for a very big crown on it, and it comes with those mounting screws on the side, which make the watch look bigger than it really is. So it's not a matter of what the actual millimeters are. It's a matter of how it looks and feels when you're wearing it. This watch has the 82S7 Miyota sub-second hand movement in it. It is one of the Miyota makes just such fantastic movements. You can see there's a little bit of decoration on the movement. It is an extremely well made, going to be an extremely accurate movement for you. It's sapphire crystal front and back. Let's see how thick it is. It's a fairly thick watch, actually. Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, it's like 14.4 millimeters thick, 14.6. So it's not a thin watch, that's for sure. Some of that is because we did have to get the metal, even though the metal is pretty thin. We did need to get the metal in there and have a little extra room for that. So again, it has the Miyota sub-second movement in it, which is just one of the best made movements in the world. You can look and see the case is also a tumbled style. We wanted this to look, see how the tumbled finish is on there. We wanted this to look like it may have just come right out of the engine. Some other aspects of what come with the watch. The watch comes with 2 straps that can actually be used like 3 straps. First, it has this amazing thick leather strap that has the NATO style keepers or the Zulu style keepers, whichever you prefer to refer to them as. It has the contrast stitching, and this is just, we felt like was the perfect strap for this watch. But then we went ahead and added this fantastic bund strap of Swedish leather. Gives us another connection to the Baltic. Oh yeah, speaking of connections to the Baltic, if I didn't mention it earlier, the largest and most powerful train that VVT has, it took them 15 years to build, or to rebuild, is a German train. So that keeps our connection to the Baltic there in this watch as well. Even though I admit that's a smaller connection than we normally have, it is still a connection to the Baltic. And then we got these Swedish leather straps, which are just phenomenal, and that actually gave us another connection to the Baltic. And the reason we say it's 2 straps can be used as 3, the way these bund straps are set up compared to some others, it's easy to slip the strap out, and you can just use the top and bottom portion of the strap without having to actually use the bund part if that's how you prefer to wear it. So you could actually have 3 straps on there. The packaging, wow, we love packaging. The packaging for this one is a 2-watch holder. It's really a travel case, but we use it as the main packaging for for this one, and for the Iron Wolf. And if we if we build more Berlin walls, which we hope to, this is going to become the packaging of the Berlin wall. It's very compact. You can carry 2 watches in it. It's going to come with the watch and the additional strap. There's place in here for additional straps if you wanted to put them in there. It's just really, really, really high quality packaging. The other aspect of this particular watch is luminosity. I'm a big fan of Lume. I think anybody who's been watching me over the years knows that I just love Lume in watches. And we actually did 2 dials as full Lume dials, and then 1 with really great Lume in and of itself, even though it wasn't full Lume. We used 15 individual silk screen layers of luminous material, and we only use Super Luminova, Swiss made Super Luminova. We don't use any of the other brands for our Lume. Hey, Abe, you want to, let's turn off and do a, there we go. And here you can see just how amazing the Lume, look at that. It's having a hard time, focusing on it because it's in the dark, but you get the idea. And then here's the other one. Oh, wow. Look at that Lume. That is just, and guys, there's no, I'm not doing anything. There's no, I'm not popping this up. I'm not changing any filters or editing in any way. This is just what this looks like. All right, hey, that's good. So again, there are 3 core aspects to the Gauge Master, setting aside all of the other standard things that we did this 10 ATM, which you don't normally see in a train watch, but I wanted we wanted the quality of construction that comes along with 10 ATM. It is, again, sapphire crystal front and back, surgical grade stainless steel, all those other things. I mean, those are, to me, even kind of like trivial in comparison to the fact that this watch just has such a great story. And it does have the actual metal from 1800s and 1900s locomotives in it. It is just a fabulous timepiece all the way around, in my opinion. Of course, it is our own watch, so of course I'm going to feel that way. But you get it on your wrist, I think you're going to feel the same way. So again, the 3 core elements are that it has the actual 1800s or 1900s metal from locomotives, the askew dial, and the fact that it has the manometer gauge as the inspiration for the dial and the case work, for that matter. And again, the VVT Train Museum, a big shout out to them, and a thank you to Robert Ligario, who is the Vostok Europe distributor in Switzerland. He has been working with me for the past 3 years to bring this project together, and we couldn't have possibly done it without him, and we appreciate everything he's done to make that happen. So hey, Robert, and a big shout out to you, and then to the VVT Train Museum, as we are the official watch for the Train Museum, and they're the ones providing the metal and the great story that goes along with this. All right, well, until next time, I'm Craig Hester, and hey, keep watching.